Well, good evening everyone, and welcome along. Welcome to the members of the gallery. Thanks for coming. Welcome to the councillors and welcome to the staff. Thank you. Declare the meeting open at 6 o'clock. Right on the knocker. And in accordance, advice that the meeting will be digitally recorded. In accordance with the policy Gov 017, digital recording of council minutes to record meetings of council to assist in the preparation of minutes and to allow live streaming of council meetings. Next duty is to acknowledge the country. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners and custodians of the land on which we meet today, the Tomajuna people, and to pay our respect to those that have passed before us, their history and their culture. We've got a full attendance of councillors, no apologies, no leave of absence previously approved. Confirmation of the minutes of our previous meeting, 2.1. There's a recommendation there, folks, that councillors, that the minutes of the ordinary meeting held at the council chambers on Monday the 13th of December.
So moved, Mr Mayor.
Deputy Mayor Duniam moved.
Second that, Mayor.
Councillor Brummy seconded. Any corrections to the minutes are to be identified and agreed at this point prior to taking a vote to adopt the minutes. Are there any corrections, councillors? If not, I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Declarations of interests. Does any councillor or staff member have an item on tonight's agenda which they wish to declare on? I take it that's a no. Announcements by the Mayor. I have no announcements to make. The Mayor's Communications 4.2. Did Council note the Mayor's Communications for the period? Any questions on that? I'll ask for a move and a seconder, please. Councillor Bremish moved. Councillor Hyland seconded. I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. 4.3, reports by delegates. Nil received. Notification of council workshops. That the council note the following workshops that have been conducted. We have a motion on that, please.
So moved, Mr Mayor.
Deputy Mayor Duniam. Oh, you didn't miss that one. Oh, Councillor Edwards seconded. Any questions? Any speakers? I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Yeah, we do find tonight with our masks on that we've got to really speak into the mic, and I haven't had any trouble yet, but it's just something that we've got to observe, we must be aware of. Public questions and statements is the next item on the agenda. Responses to public questions taken on notice from the previous meeting. The questions are there and the officers' responses are also there. Public statements received in writing. Public statements without notice. Just a moment. Just a moment. Before we go to there, the Council encourages community participation in its meetings through the opportunity for public questions and statements. Consistent with Council core values, councillors and staff strive to ensure all people are treated with courtesy, fairness, dignity and respect. We expect our residents and other ratepayers to apply similar standards in their dealings with Council. As Mayor, it's my responsibility to maintain the orderly conduct of council meetings and to determine whether a question or statement is out of order due to use of offensive, objectionable or defamatory expressions. I know the members of the public will show their consideration and courtesy in their comments. Thank you. Public questions without notice. That was your question. Mr Ewington, you indicated, yep, that you had a question. Yeah, it appears you're the only one that has launched them, and hand over to you, Mr Ewington, for...
You want first, Mr Chairman?
It's up to you. You just make your own choice.
Good. Oh, well, I'll try the statement first. How's that? I'd like to bring the attention to the council meeting tonight, Foxglove. As you know, fully aware, it's been advertised in the paper, a few articles about the concerning matter. Foxglove is a plant which induced through the nurseries. It come from the European countries back in the 1880s or thereabouts. It is starting to take over our community. I've had first-hand experience with it, as in 2016-2017 flood.
Yep.
My farmland in the River Flats was interrogated with the foxglove seed, which in turn I had the plants. When I identified the weed, I then decided to put things in action to attack the problem. I approached Servag for a recognised chemical to control it. They didn't know of any would control it. I have read up on many articles where Roundup and other herbicides will not control the weed. So the first 12 months I experimented with different chemicals to contain the weed. It's a weed that you start spraying in September and go through to December. It's a weed that propagates profusely. As you kill one lot of plants, another lot of plants come up. This current year I've taken on the role of trying to contain the weed from Pages Road Bridge through for about 2 kilometres through 5 different neighbours, and I've applied my own labour, staff labour and chemicals to try and contain weed. We start in September and we proceed every fortnight going around doing the 5 different properties, including myself. This goes on constantly for a fortnight. It takes about 8 hours to do that area. This current year, I have December, when the flower fully flowers, I have successfully got it down to about 95% control at the moment. There was one section on the river I could not get to it. I've done another investigation last week and found there's still new plants coming on, of course. It's a weed we don't want because we've got a beautiful community and we need to tackle it. And as you read up in many articles, with people expressing concerns. I'd like to bring to the attention of the council that you've got foxglove in your little area. It is at Preelina Road, between the crossroads and the Preelina Township. And at this stage, you are verge mowing the roadsides where the foxglove is. It's in the stage of seed, and I feel that the council should seriously consider doing something about putting some process in and attack this weed, because if we don't, all our beautiful countryside of the community of Wynyard will be destroyed by these flowers. And also I do feel the council should approach the nurseries and other areas where try and encourage them not to sell the flower, because I've been in the farming industry all my life and this is the worst weed that I've tried to contain. It's just horrendous, and I have experienced the weed it's travelled from the river frontage about 1 kilometre in found pieces in the bush. It's serious stuff. And also through inadvertently I've actually taken the seed and got home one day and looked down the yard and here was a foxglove, and I thought, wow. But yes, no, that's something that the council need to consider seriously. I know it's in the book here, the Cairo Coast Council bring out, highlighting the seriousness of the weeds. And I feel that action needs to be taken now before it gets out of hand. I am also concerned, I have campaigned and tackled another weed called slender thistle, which is up to the family owner to control and eradicate. Over the years I've gone around the community of Flowerdow and Morlear and give my time and effort to contain the weed. Of course, you have 1 or 2 farmers have no interest in containment of weeds. One farmer in question is a large cropping man with a huge amount of acreage. He has no consideration for weed control at all. We've contained a 200-acre spread of weeds down to 95% eradication. But this year, I was assured there's going to be a weed program put in place to contain the slender thistle. This did not happen. We have got outbreaks of weeds, slender thistles, which did not get chemically sprayed. We had another area slashed, which in turn will spread the seed for the new year coming. This is disappointing. Council Weed Control Office has got the power to enforce it, and that's one location. The other locations in Warlear, the farmer in question doesn't understand weeds. I've offered my time and effort to do it, but he doesn't understand the seriousness of it. And once again, he has not attended to his weeds, so once again, another failure. So why do I put my effort, time, money into this as a community thing, in turn that the Council Weed Control Office cannot enforce it? He can, he has got the power to enforce it. Now, another thing that's come up now is ragwort. I have once again had to instigate the ragwort to the Council Weed Control staff to go out and contact the farmers in question to contain their weed. It's fully flowered, it's there, and no action's been taken until last week. But what concerns me is it needs to be forward planning from the Weed Control Department, so each year they contact the farmer to make sure he's got everything in place for the incoming year of the weed weed outbreak. This is so important. It's not one-off, one-year thing. It's an ongoing thing. Ragwort is a bad weed in its own right, and it only takes 1 or 2 years missing as it goes throughout the district. And I still feel that there's not enough effort, like there should be, on your notice book, council notice for board, each year a write-up of the slender thistles and other weeds when they're about to flower, so members of the community can report it to indicate that they've got it, so the Council Weed Control Office can make action. Because we've got a beautiful community here, but we're not putting enough effort into weed control. How are we going for time, Mr.
We've run out, Mr.
Right,
Ewington.
so I'm trying to get across to you
We've got the message.
consistent areas, and I need to request an action on this matter.
Thank you. Would you like to turn over to your question now, please?
Oh, just gave me thoughts. I'll find it. Hang on, bear with me. There it is. Thanks. Right. Well, not very often I do give encouragement to the council, so I thought I'd better give it a little bit of encouragement this time. There has been a development out East Wynyard Reservoir Drive, no, not Reservoir Drive, at Nurses Retreat. A park and walkways being provided for people to walk along the foreshore and experience the sea and coastline. It's a wonderful idea. It's got a lot of potential. There's a parking area for 24 people. It's ideal for people with carers who have got highly disabled people in wheelchairs. They can park and go across the walkway on the bitumen footpath and experience the sea. It's only a short distance, I know that, but I think it'd be a good outing for them people. So people with other highly disabilities issues can go there. Well done.
Your question, Mr. Ewington.
My question is, how is it there's 24 parking spots and not one disabled parking spot? Please answer. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Summers, your department, you have an answer to Mr. Ewington's question?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. I can take that one on notice. I know for the area there are a couple of other outstanding items like park benches and chairs, so I suspect that's probably the case. So.
You believe it, probably on the cards.
Yep.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on. That concludes questions and statements. Planning Authority items. Any questions relating to planning matters? There haven't been any received. So, sorry.
Yeah, I'm Tracy Jones. Is this the section for
Planning
comments without notice?
I missed you there.
Is this the section for comments without notice?
Statements or questions, and if you listed them with our secretary earlier, you haven't done that?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
Because I don't think it's necessary.
Oh, it is actually, but your problem.
I will be recorded.
It's
I draw your attention to page 17 of the agenda, part B, conditions, item 1, line 3, talks about 85 metres above ground level. Item 2 talks about
Okay, thank you. There'll be a,
It's,
excuse me, councillor Courtney. Yes,
I want to know how to read, how to interpret what I'm reading.
okay, this is,
Are we talking about 85 metres
we,
or 8.5 metres?
Mrs Jones, yes, we are in the we're about to handle planning authority matters, and I'll use your question in this section.
Right.
And our planning authority official is onto it, and I believe, Jasmine, do you have, Mr Summers?
Yeah,
Yeah.
through you, Mr Mayor. Yeah, we can clarify that now. It's an omission of a decimal point
Yeah.
between the numbers 8 and 5 on Part B, Condition 1.
Yeah,
So
it should be 8.5.
it's a typo.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. We didn't open for planning authority items, but that was a question answered in the planning section, and we are now acting as a planning authority at 6:16, and the first item is 6.3, sheep production enterprise located at Mount Hicks Road. There it is, item 6.3 on the agenda, and there is a recommendation there. Councillors?
Yeah, so moved.
Move, Councillor
I'll,
Hyland.
I'll second that, Mr Mayor, please.
Councillor Hyland moved. Deputy Mayor Dunyam seconded. And Councillor Hyland, do you wish to speak?
Yeah, she's on. Yes, Mr Mayor, yeah, there's no issues there. It meets all the requirements, so just ask council to support it.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Dunyam, did you wish to speak?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I will speak in favour of the motion, and approval of this DA is dependent on compliance by the developer against Part A and Part B conditions throughout the establishment of this whole enterprise. So I think that, as Councillor Hyland has said, there are no issues, and as long as the developer is compliant all the way through, I support the motion.
Okay. Any further speakers? Councillor Bramish.
Thank you. I'm going to go a bit deeper and support the motion and say it's a fabulous idea for our area. It'll be great. We've got a wool store there. We're going to have visitor accommodation. What more do we really not want in Wynyard? We've got most things now, and it's fantastic. And well done to the developer for thinking of something like this. And let's hope you have such a success with it.
Thank you. Councillor Fairbrother, you indicate you wish to speak.
Thank you, Mayor. If I could just go back to the mover and the seconder indicated that they didn't have any issues. I do have issues with this particular application. Not so much the application or the intent of the application, that I am supportive of. It's just that reading through the agenda item, in particular the attachments, there's no application being provided to the planning authority for the making of the application. I dare suggest that the applicant has provided one to council. However, it hasn't translated that I could find through the planning authority. My question is, how is it that we consider as a planning authority when we don't have a valid planning application before us? There is Mayor and councillors, I'll draw your attention to, there is an application form which has been provided, has been signed by the Crown or a representative of the Crown. However, there's not been an application form provided to the planning authority associated with the application in the documentation that I've been provided. So I'm at a loss as to know how it is that I can approve, as a member of the planning authority, an application when I don't have an application before me.
Can anyone in our... Yeah.
Through the chair, Mr Mayor,
Thank you.
looking at that, we did receive an application that was filled out. It was filled out electronically, and it appears that as it's been put into the agenda, some of the information in that has disappeared, barring the signatures. We can provide a copy of that filled out application form as soon as is required, but we did receive one. It's just that it's not come across correctly in the attachments to the council agenda.
Thank you. So the procedure was followed. It's an omission that is available. Any further speakers? No further speakers?
Mr Mayor, may I ask a question?
Question, Councillor Bramish.
Well done, Councillor Fairbrother, for picking that up. With that situation in front of us, how do we sit now? Are we going to make a decision on maybe, or what? I'm a little bit concerned of the decision we might make.
Yeah, well, the application's been processed and it complies with everything that's been documented in the agenda, so
Right.
that's how I see it.
Yep.
Would that be right? Yep.
If it's the case that the application form doesn't exist and the decision that's made tonight will not have any legal effect, but if the application form does exist, which we do have record of,
Yep.
then it's the case that any decision made tonight would have the usual force that it would.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay,
Mayor Walsh, can I speak? I believe I asked a question.
okay.
Personally, as a member of the Planning Authority, I can't support the application in the current form. The first two speakers said that there was no issues, and the Deputy Mayor actually made the point that it is a compliance issue. Technically, as we sit here as a Planning Authority, we have no legal application set before us in the documentation. I don't know how we as a planning authority can sit here and consider an application when we don't have an application before us. It's not a fault, to my thinking, of the applicant. It is a fault, a processing fault, and it is a technical compliance matter before the planning authority. We go to great lengths to ensure that every application is compliant with the planning scheme and the requirements of a scheme. It is a basic fundamental part of an application to have an application form signed by the owner. I don't know how it is that we can sit here as a planning authority and consider an application where we don't know what's been applied for. I always read the application to ensure that the statutory process has transpired. To my way of thinking, it's if I crystal ball gaze a little bit, it's like, okay, Darren, what do you think we should do as a planning authority for this application? For me, it should be deemed approved, which means that council doesn't make a decision, that the application can't be dealt with within the statutory time frame that we have and should be deemed approved. Mayor, so in the
Yep.
current form,
Yep.
I don't believe that I can sit there hand on heart and say I want to approve this because the application to me is incomplete.
Okay, Councillor Fairbrother, we'll in conference with the staff, I'll make a 10-minute intermission and we'll provide that document. So at 6:24, we will take a break and be back with the paperwork. 6:34, folks. Could we resume at 6:34?
or are we technically correct and let the matter be deemed approved after some direction from council staff, if you wish?
I have received that direction, Councillor Fairbrother, and there's two options. We can hold a special meeting in 4 days' time, or we can fail to do that and the application is deemed approved. If it exceeds the time limit, the application is deemed approved. If we wish to hold a special meeting in 4 days' time, I'll just refer to our planning department. Jasmine, would you wish to speak?
Yes, through you, Mr Mayor. For the application to be deemed approved, council would need to make an application to the Resource Planning Tribunal under Section 54 of the Land Use Planning and Approvals Act to make that decision. For something that was deemed not approved, it's not an automatic process. We would need to make that application to the tribunal.
Okay. So in that matter, we need to hold a special meeting to prove this after the 4-day explanation that the councillors need to have the document.
If it is the opinion of the councillors acting as a planning authority that it's not a valid application until that 4 days has passed, then we would need to do that.
Yes.
That would need to be the process if it's the view of the councillors that it's not a valid application to be going up at this stage.
Okay, thanks very much for that information. This is acting GM. Put it to the council. Okay, councillors, we'll go through the process. Do you wish to go with what we've got now, and or do you wish to delay it and have the 4 days to absorb what's just been put on the screen to prove that the application was made? I'd like to know your feelings on that matter.
Question through you, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Courtney.
Does it make any difference to the recommendation? Does it change any of the details in what I've already read in the application and what the recommendation would be? Or is it just a piece of paper was omitted that, then ties to a legal requirement? Does it change anything from the planning side from what I've read?
Our planning department officer, Jasmine.
From the understanding of the planning department, the decision that council's making in a planning authority is based on the recommendation. The issue of what showed up in the attachments would be something that would be separate to that. However, when it comes to council not making a decision within a certain time frame, then the application's made to the planning tribunal to make that decision in council's place, and they're able to vary the conditions as they see fit. So they may make a different they may refuse it, they may change the conditions. It would be up to the planning tribunal to make a decision as they saw fit.
Thank you.
Mayor Walsh, can I make a suggestion? That is, perhaps with agreeance of the mover and the seconder, we put an added condition there that if in 4 days' time a planning application, which clearly council have got, is furnished to council staff are provided with the jurisdiction to, if it is the will of the council, to approve the application. That way we are technically, as a planning authority, correct. The applicant is able to proceed in accordance with the recommendation if that is the will of the council, and we tick all the boxes. It may be a little bit technical, cumbersome, for which I apologise. However, it's not in my making. That does circumvent having a special meeting if the mover and the seconder is happy to delegate to council staff that if in the event after this meeting or council make a decision that a valid planning application, words to that effect, I don't know. It is we need a recommendation from council staff as to how to move forward on this matter. I personally am not supportive of having another special meeting because I don't have a problem with the application per se. It's the process that I have a problem with.
Yeah.
That I have suggested a way forward. If some other councillor have got an alternative solution, I'm happy to hear it.
Yeah, I wish Councillor Fairbrother you'd have brought this to our attention today so we could have rectified the problem, that was all.
Mayor, my time constraints, I read the attachments at 4 o'clock.
So there wasn't much good of you having them 4 days before.
Mr Mayor.
Through you, Mr Mayor, I was just talking to our planning officers, and the additional information that we've provided councillors with tonight doesn't change the content or the recommendation or the detail of what's been provided to councillors tonight. So the recommendation and the advice provided to councillors remains accurate and sufficient for council to make a decision if they wish to do so.
Okay, thank you for that, acting GM. So look, I guess I believe we will proceed. We have a mover and a seconder. We will does those mover or seconder wish to speak? They have spoken. Does anyone wish to close the debate?
Yeah, I can close it, Mr
Councillor
Mayor.
Hyland?
Yep, I think we need to go ahead with what we've got. And above all, we need to, as a councillor, as councillors, we need to have some damn trust in our staff. They were asked a question about the form. The form's in the building, and it just hasn't got to where it obviously needs to be. So I think we just need to move on. It's a brilliant application, as Councillor Bramage has pointed out, and we just need to move on and deal with it.
Thank you. Debate is closed. I'll put the motion, and I guess there'll be a division. Those in favour of the motion, please indicate. Councillor Deputy Mayor Duniam, Councillor Bramage, Councillor Bradley, Councillor Edwards, Councillor Hyland and myself. Those against? Councillor Fairbrother. Motion is carried. You wish to abstain, did you, Councillor? Councillor Courtney abstained. Okay. The motion is carried. We will move on to the next matter, which is item 6.4 on the agenda. Dwelling extensions located at 283 Port Road, Boat Harbour. Your recommendation there, councillors? 6.4 on the agenda. I missed that.
I'll second that, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Courtney moved. Deputy Mayor Duniam. Okay. Councillor Courtney moved. Deputy Mayor Duniam seconded. Any speakers? No speakers? Councillor Fairbrother, did you wish to speak?
Yeah, I do, Mayor. Councillors, I bring to your attention this particular application. It is fairly straightforward in theory. I say in theory because back in November we had another application before us which was near identical to this one, in that a proponent had an application for a replacement deck. To do a comparison between this application and the other one, it's like comparing chalk and cheese. I say that because I'll get to it later in the notices of motion, but the way I see this, Mayor, this is an application for a deck in landslip B. My concern is that at the building stage, this person will or may be required to comply with the bushfire requirements. That places a restraint on them to have a 10,000 litre. They can't exceed 10,000 litres of water on the property because it's in a landslip B zone. We've got a problem at Moore Street that the guy that built the deck can't get sign-off from council officers because he's got 20,000 litres of water. That's why I'm requesting a change in the legislation so that we can fix a problem that we're having in our community.
Yep.
And this
Point
one
of order,
does...
Mr Mayor.
Yeah.
We are digressing from the
Yep.
actual motion.
we please stick to the matter at hand, 6.4, councillor Fairbrother.
Yes, Mayor, I don't have a problem with the development application per se, and won't be voting against it. However, can I ask a question? Will this person get a building application approved at the end of the day if we provide them with planning approval?
Yeah, officer in the planning department, Jasmine, you clear with the question?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that is something for a building surveyor to decide, which is external to council. However, I will note that a bushfire-prone, something in a bushfire-prone area is defined as being within 100 metres of a hectare or more of bushfire-prone vegetation. A preliminary assessment doesn't indicate that this property is in that location. However, advice would need to be sought from a bushfire hazard consultant to determine that for sure, which will happen at the building stage via a building surveyor.
Thank you. Answer your question, councillor Fairbrother?
No, one of the other triggers is within 30 metres of a area of Crown land, which this one does trigger a bushfire report as I understand it. Thank you.
Okay, any further speakers? We have a motion. Move councillor Courtney, seconded Deputy Mayor Dunyam. Any further speakers? If not, councillor Courtney, do you wish to close the debate?
No, I'll just note that it says that it complies when you read through it. I can't see any reason that we can't approve it, and obviously the representatives support it as well, so I don't see there's any reason for us to knock this one back.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. All in favour, please indicate. Please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. (6.5) Subdivision, 31 lots, located at Hale Street, around where the old brick kiln was. The recommendation there, councillors?
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Deputy Mayor Dunyam moved.
Second it.
Councillor Hyland seconded. Does the mover wish to speak?
Thank you. The planning assessment on page 58 identifies that this proposal is a discretionary application and that the planner considers that the proposed subdivision does comply with either the acceptable solution and or satisfies the performance criteria for all applicable standards of the planning scheme. So I do ask that the council support this motion.
Thank you. Any further speakers?
Mr. Mayor, yeah, I've got my light on already. There were some queries in the representations in regard to the roads, but having a look through all the recommendations and all the dot points, I think if you should satisfy yourself with all the rigmarole they've got to go through with constructional engineers and civil engineers, and council obviously are going to take over the assets. So I think they shouldn't have any worries or concerns in regard to that. So.
Okay.
I'm happy to support it.
Okay. The mover and the seconder have spoken. Anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Fairbrother?
Just a question. Mayor, there is a condition in there that provides council with a certain area of land. Was it an option for us to take a cash contribution as opposed to taking a section of land?
A question there to our planning department. Do you have that information available? A cash contribution instead of a section of land, was that an option for the council?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm to understand that the developer proposed public open space land be held by council as part of the subdivision application. So.
Thank you. Okay. Any further speakers? I'll put the motion. All in favour? Councillor Bramage.
Sorry, Mayor.
You're
I'll
right.
be very brief.
Yes.
I reckon it's brilliant. One lot into 31. Wow, isn't that good for our town?
Yep.
You know, I think should be pretty excited here in Waratah Wynyard. with the development that's happened. The building industry hasn't gone backwards since this virus hit us two or so years ago. It's just boomed.
Yep.
Thank you.
No worries. Okay, I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. That concludes our planning section at 6:46. Okay, we'll move on to item 7, section of the agenda, 7.1, councillors' questions now received without, from the previous meeting. We continue on notices of motions and we get to councillors' questions without notice and councillors' questions received in writing nil. Councillors' questions without notice. Over to you, councillors. Councillor Bramage.
Thanks, Mayor. Just a little one. I just wonder whether between now and the next meeting, staff can help me draft a notice of motion up that we, a positive notice of motion that we put electronic notice boards in the cow paddock or Civic Square and in the mall in Somerset or other suitable places, whatever staff comes up with. They were just two that I had in mind. I presume staff would help me draft something up.
Yeah, I believe that service is available to all of us, Councillor Bremish, and you only need to make an appointment with the acting GM, and I believe the assistants will be there.
Yeah, I understand that, Mayor. I just thought, well, I'll flag it here for other councillors to think about it in the next month.
Yep.
And because I think it's long overdue.
Yep. Councillor
Yeah,
Deputy
Mr
Mayor
Mayor,
Daniel.
if I could just make a comment that it has been before council before, through questions, and I guess that it is on the our projects that we're going to be doing this, but I do agree that there needs to be some sort of notice board for the community in both Somerset and Wynyard.
Yep, thank you. Any further councillors' questions without notice? Right, we now move on to notices of motion and 8.1. Councillor Fairbrother, do you changes of planning and building rules?
Mr Mayor, I'd like to move a procedural motion, if I may.
Councillor Hyland. Procedural motion, Councillor Hyland.
Yes, I'd move that this item be referred to the next available workshop. Given that the extensive detail that's in this motion, I think it's appropriate that it go through there before any action is taken by the council.
Councillor Hyland. We have a seconder for the procedural motion? Councillor Courtney. In regard to procedural motions, there'll be no debate. I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Against? Okay, there'll be a division.
Mayor, can I just say something? I haven't
There's no-
actually moved the motion, so you've taken a procedural, you've introduced a procedural process when I haven't even moved the motion. So we don't have a motion on the books at the time to discuss. You've accepted a procedural motion before the motion's been put to council. We don't at the moment have a motion before council because I haven't moved a motion.
I've received a procedural motion on 8.1 on tonight's agenda.
Through you, Mr Mayor. Through you, Mr Mayor, I advise that for a procedural motion to apply under the meeting regulations, Councillor Fairbrother is correct. We need a mover and a seconder of the first motion for that motion to be live before Councillor Hyland can pass the procedural motion.
Okay, thank you, acting GM. So you wish to proceed now, Councillor Fairbrother?
No, I don't, Mayor. I'm quite happy to listen to Councillor Hyland and accede to his request and have the matter referred to a workshop. So
you don't
all
want
of council can can understand better the matters that we have to discuss. I think that is a better outcome. So I don't wish to move the motion at this time. I'll put the notice of motion up again after whenever it is that we have the discussion.
Ah, fair enough. So all that was about just bringing that to attention. Thank you. Okay, so I'll put the procedural motion then. I have already done that, and it's been carried. Thank you. Okay, 9.1, the Open Space Sport and Recreation Plan, the annual update.
So moved, Mr Mayor.
Deputy Mayor Daniel moved. Secretary Councillor Courtney. Any questions? Any?
Just a couple of brief
Speakers.
comments. I ask councillors to note the progress and actions to date on pages 67 to 69, as well as no key outstanding items included in the annual plan and budget estimates for delivery for 21-22. It is an extensive 10-year plan, and I congratulate staff for the work undertaken so far to bring it to fruition. Still a way to go, obviously, but I ask councillors to support this recommendation.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Any further speakers? No further speakers. I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Well, there you go. 9.2 is the Community Activation Grants, Round 1.
So moved, Mr Mayor.
Deputy Mayor Daniel moved. Councillor Hyland seconded. Any questions?
Yeah, can I just confirm that there has been a change to the grant application that we discussed?
Yeah, it
Thank
is.
you.
It's on the agenda.
I do have some comments, if I may, please, Mr Mayor. These grants identify some of the amazing community organisations and their projects, demonstrating the amazing commitment the organisations and members have made towards their communities. Each submission for funding was thoroughly assessed by Councillor Courtney and myself against stringent funding criteria and supported by Mayor Walsh in his ex officio role. These grants are round 1 of the Community Activation Program, and I strongly encourage other organisations to apply for the next round, which will be advertised later in 2022. So I do ask councillors to support this motion.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Any further speakers? No further speakers? I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. 9.3, Energy Saver Grants Program. Recommendation there that the council endorse the allocation funding application for the Energy Saver
So
grant.
moved, Mr Mayor.
Yep.
I'll second that.
Deputy Mayor Daniel and seconded Councillor Edwards. Any speakers?
Yes, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Daniel.
There are 3 funding submissions that have again been assessed against stringent funding criteria, and each organisation has demonstrated strong commitment towards carbon neutral energy saving initiatives. Waratah Wynyard Council launched this program in November last year to support environmental aims of the Waratah Wynyard Integrated Council Environmental Plan 2020 to 2030. Demonstrating its own commitment through this 10-year plan towards being a carbon neutral organisation. Therefore, I ask councillors to support this recommendation for funding.
Thank you. Any further speakers? I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. 9.4, the Road Naming and Addressing Policy. Don't want to do anything with that? Anyone wish to move or second it, please?
I'll move that motion.
Councillor Edwards,
I'll second that, Mr Mayor.
seconded Deputy Mayor Daniel. Any speakers? No speakers? In favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. We move on to item 9.5, which is the Corporate Quarterly Information Sheet report there. All on documentation there, sheets everywhere, and the Quarterly Information Report.
I'll move that.
Councillor Edwards moved.
I'll second that, Mr Mayor.
Deputy Mayor Daniel. Any speakers? Any questions? Councillor Courtney.
I'd just like to note that it's pretty cool. We've got some females in our outdoor workforce, and I hope that soon we'll see some males in our childcare centre.
Thank you. Any further speakers? Councillor Bramish.
Yeah, I got a question. On page 91, regarding Timothy Drive, new addressing, 4-lot subdivision. Existing road Timothy Drive runs westerly off Canal Avenue. Well, I don't believe that to be right. I thought Canal Avenue was its sister's beach, and Timothy Drive is up the Aldina Road. I guess it's probably a misprint, but I'm not sure what the new road name would be. But apart from that, there's no problems.
With that correction, Councillor Bramish, we'll address.
Yep, that's fine. I don't expect it to be done now, but I think it's just a problem that's been overlooked.
Yep, thank you. Highlighted that. Thank you. Any further, anything further out of the report?
Just on the same question, if I might, Mayor. Brownfield changes. Can somebody just elaborate? Brownfield changes is a new one on me. I didn't have the opportunity to Google what brownfield changes are. Can someone elaborate?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the terms greenfield and brownfield are often used to describe sites broadly, greenfield being an undeveloped site, brownfield a developed. So in this case, I'd assume the authors meant a brownfield site would be where there are existing addresses numbered already.
Thank you. Any further questions or any further speakers? If not, I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. That was 9.5. We're 9.6 is the annual plan update report from, yep, thank you, Councillor Courtney.
I'll second that, Mr Mayor.
Second to Deputy Mayor Duniam. Any questions? Any speakers? I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. 9.7 is the senior management report. Councillor Nutt. That was Courtney. Councillor Courtney, thank you.
I'll second that, Mr Mayor.
Deputy Mayor Duniam seconded. Okay, the senior management report. Any questions out of that? Any speakers?
Yes, Mr Mayor, if Councillor Courtney is not speaking, if I could just make a note here. I note the in-depth response from the Honourable Peter Gutman to the issues raised by Councillor Bramage. I'm not sure whether this response adequately addresses the issue he's raised on several occasions. And my other point is it should be noted also that the next community conversation is scheduled for the 31st of January in Waratah at 5:30. Waratah is a community that solidly supports these conversations, and community members are very proactive in seeking answers to issues and giving advice on what needs to be done in their area.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Duniam. Any further? Councillor Bramish.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, just to touch on you received from Peter Gutt's offsiders, I guess that's who it come from. It hasn't addressed anything that we ask, I don't believe. Not a thing. Now, I'd also like some clarification about where it says that the council's responsible for mowing the Mount Hicks roundabout. I'd like to see where we are responsible for that. I think we might have took it upon ourselves to mow it a few years ago to pretty out entrance of the town up. If we're responsible for that on State Growth Road, we should be paid X amount of dollars. And the cock and bull story he gave us about the Calder roundabout, it was supposed to be made but they postponed it. What a load of crap. Come on, we've got to get real. I understand there's a lot of things going on, but geez, we deserve a proper answer to all this. And what we've got is just airy-fairy stuff. And we, well, I don't know, Mayor, but I'm not going to accept it as a councillor. That's how they're going to operate. And through you, Mr Mayor, I don't expect Sam to take too much on board, but when our GM gets back, g'day Shane, I reckon he'll be disgusted with the letter as well. So I'm certainly not finished with it yet. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bramage. Any further discussion, comments about the senior management report? Councillor Courtney.
No, I was just going to close up debate. That
Yeah.
was the only thing I was going to bring up, that I didn't feel that the letter to Councillor Bramich here had in any way, shape or form addressed his concerns, but I think that's been well aired by the previous two councillors, so I think that's the end of debate on that one.
Okay, thank you. I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Item 9.8, financial report for the period ended the 31st of December.
So moved, Mr Mayor.
Deputy Mayor Dunyam.
I'll second that.
Councillor Edwards seconded. Question from Councillor. Our acting GM, could you elaborate on that?
Yes, I can through you, Mr Mayor. Council is expecting an unfavourable variances in its materials and contracts line, and that is in part due to a higher than budgeted contract clearing cost for the waste transfer station. So basically that contract is impacted by the volume of waste that we have going to landfill. So at the time of setting the budget, we make an assumption around the volume of waste and the associated costs that will incur. Any variation to that volume impacts on the pricing. So whilst we have an unfavourable variance to the materials and contracts line, overall council's tracking expected to be within its budget estimates overall, and we're tracking favourably to that. Although it is worth councillors noting that during this COVID time, our income and expenditure over the coming months may be more volatile than what we are expecting, but we will monitor that and obviously keep council up to date if that occurs. Thank you.
Thank you, acting GM. Any further questions? Councillor Courtney.
Yeah, through you, Mr Mayor. Just wondering, I know that obviously we all expected that there would be an increase in what goes to landfill when we made the tip free, so I'm assuming that most of us knew that was going to happen. Just wondering, did we actually save money though on the rubbish that we have to pick up at Aldina and other areas that we have in the past when we didn't have a free tip? Are people doing the right thing? Has this actually encourage people to do the right thing and bring it to the tip rather than dump it if we save money there?
Through you, Mr Mayor, while I don't have any dollar figures at my fingertips to respond to the question, certainly anecdotally aware of far fewer instances of reported dumped waste, but the pleasing thing that we do see now is that there's real community or outrage when it does occur. They point to there being easy ways to dispose of waste now that they don't need to pay to enter the transfer station, so there's stronger disappointment from the community when it does occur, but we see it occurring less.
I might add to that, Mr Engineer, that the big winner in this is the environment. I travel the environment at the rear outskirts of Wynyard a lot, and it is amazing the difference in the fresh and frequency of what's being waste tipped over the bank in different places in our outlying environment. It's a big winner. I think it's money well spent, actually. Okay, any further speakers? I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. That was 9.8. 9.91, the minutes of other bodies. Audit Panel Committee held the 14th of December. There's a recommendation there. The unconfirmed minutes be...
So moved, Mr Mayor.
Deputy Mayor Dunyam.
I'll second that.
Councillor Edwards seconded. Any discussion, any questions?
Just a comment, it should be noted that this audit panel is extremely thorough in their review of financial operating standards against the Waratah Wynyard Council. Note also that there were no formal recommendations made to Council from issues addressed at the meeting. So I ask Council to support this motion.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Dunyam. Any further speakers? Any questions? I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. That concludes the open part. Matters proposed for consideration in the closed meeting. There's a recommendation that resolve that the matters listed below be considered in the closed meeting. Would we have
So
a
moved, Mr Mayor.
Deputy Mayor Daniel moved. That was Councillor Courtney.
Mm-hmm.
And it is 7:06. I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. And closure of the meeting to the public. Resolved by absolute majority that we go into a closed session. Deputy Mayor Daniel and seconded Councillor Hyland. Put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Our first item.